This episode is brought to you by Strength Portal. You need a single software platform that enables your trainers to deliver consistent, high-quality workouts, track client progress, and scale your business. The problem is you're still using pen and paper or basic spreadsheets to run your business, which leads to poor client experiences, inaccurate tracking, and prevents you from growing your business, making you feel frustrated. Strength Portal understand your challenge and have worked closely with the HIIT industry to create a software platform to manage and scale your niche business. You can integrate with MindBody, manage a standardized exercise and workout library for your team, track workouts effectively, and produce client reports at the click of a button. Strength Portal is used by multiple businesses in the high-intensity strength training community, namely Discover Strength, Smart Strength Austin, MedX Precision Fitness, and more. Starting with Strength Portal is super simple. Number 1, sign up for the best package for your business. Number 2, let Strength Portal take the load off and help onboard your business onto the platform. And number 3, start delivering consistent workout experiences and scale your business to the next level. To help support the podcast, please go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business and sign up now so you can stop feeling frustrated about your business and start to scale your business to its true potential. Go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business. Lawrence Neal here, and welcome back to High Intensity Business, the podcast. We provide you with the tools, the tactics, and the strategies to help you grow your high intensity training business. If you would like to acquire and retain more clients, of course you do, go to highintensitybusiness.com/free to download a science-based, very effective sales presentation based on the anti-aging effects of strength training. So you can go and get that presentation now and help you get more clients over at highintensitybusiness.com/free. This is episode 397, and the topic of today's episode is how to double your client base, quite literally. In fact, we're probably downplaying it a little bit. And today's guest to join me and talk about that journey is Billy Fletcher from the Optimization Training Lab. Billy, welcome to the show. Great to have you on the podcast finally.
Yes, very excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, likewise. Been excited about this for a while, and I'm glad we could finally get it in the diary. So for those that aren't aware, Billy and I have been working together for, can you believe it, over 3 years now, Billy? We've been working together, wow. which is a long time. I didn't realize it's quite that long. And it's one of the things I look forward to most is our phone calls, and I've loved watching your business grow. And I'm excited today to ask you questions which I don't have time to ask you normally during our calls. Because we normally get straight to business. But you've had a really interesting journey, right, in high intensity training. So do you want to, at the outset here, I think what we'll do, just to give the listeners some awareness of the structure today, I want you to do a business profile first, like talk about your business, your offerings, maybe a little history, that kind of thing. Then we'll get into your journey a little bit, which is fascinating. Spoiler alert, but Billy basically went HIIT to CrossFit, if you don't mind me saying, or outside of HIIT, and then saw the light again, and then came back to HIIT and realized that was the safest, most sustainable training approach, which is really fascinating story. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll get into what you did over the last couple of years to, as we said in the title, at least double your client base, which is really great. So let's kick off with just the business. Tell us about the business and what you do.
Okay. So kind of kick back a little bit, not too much of the history, but, I started out, doing basically one-on-one training. I was doing high intensity training, then got into became, all the way up to like a master level, super slow instructor. We were doing that. And then got involved in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I had trained other martial arts, but where I lived in South Carolina at the time, that was like 22 years ago.
Okay.
There was no black belt instruction in the whole state of South Carolina. So eventually I was driving like 2.5 hours to train, every week, and, started a jiu-jitsu school really just to have people to train with. So, so I went from the one-on-one training, and then now, and of course, that's a huge passion of mine is strength and conditioning, and then also Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So now we kind of have one space that we share, where I have, Fletcher Fitness, which is basically our HIIT training studio inside, and then we have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academy, and then also, which can sometimes sound kind of contradictory, which is kind of like I say part of the journey, is we also have a speed school, so where we teach basically sports performance from a skill perspective, not sports specific training, but basically, technical aspects of speed is the main thing. So one of my we once were part of Parisi in the speed school franchise, and then one of our coaches is really taking over that program inside our gym, Braylon Speed Shop. So he runs that program now. So we have a speed kind of youth performance in terms of like speed skill training, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then we do some group training, but mostly like one-on-one or small group high intensity training.
And just focusing on the high intensity training aspect of your business, just elaborate on that a little bit in terms of the services and the approach, the equipment, maybe the pricing, so people get a view on that.
Yes. So that was kind of a transitional thing. We can kind of get into that more in the story, but
sure.
I was doing more group training previous to where we're at now. When I really started back or started working with you, I kind of made the transition back to kind of my roots, which is in high intensity training. And I had a small section set up where I was going to be the one. I said, I'm just going to, we're going to still try to run our group classes. And then I'm going to basically just take some clients one-on-one where I can really work with them, because I kind of missed that and started doing that, and really just kind of like was reinvigorated by that whole process and seeing the results I was getting. And then kind of decided that's where I want to make my focus, go back to that. So we've kind of, we still have some group classes because we didn't want to, some people enjoy that. We didn't want to take away from that, but really put our focus back to doing one-on-one in small group, like up to 3 people is a max with one coach. And, similar studio, like I think a lot of people in HIIT have, we started out really with ARX, just for the space that I had originally. Like, this is something I can integrate. It's not inexpensive equipment, but it doesn't take a lot of space. I can do testing, because really kind of how we kind of, we've talked about this through the business process, is like we say really what we deliver is quantified strength training. So we're using the ARX as really a tool to train, but also as something to quantify strength gains. We have a Fit 3D that we utilize for our body composition analysis. And we also have a Carol bike, which, for some type of measurable for aerobic fitness or, anaerobic fitness, it gives us a measurable for that too. So that's kind of how we look at our program in general. And then since we started with ARX, then we've added some MedX and also some pendulum strength equipment as well. And we keep adding, and actually we added some old, I should say, vintage Nautilus equipment.
Good choice of words.
What I got started on years ago, and it's amazing that it's still in good shape after, and it's I don't even know how old it is, but some of the like the duo squat, and if nobody's ever done that, that's a brutal machine, or it can be. So a few exercises there. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of our space. And then we have a separate room we kind of built out within the facility. It's about 800 square feet, which is where we do most of our like one-on-one and small group stuff. But we have access to the other part. We have like turf and everything. So we have other areas we can pull people out of, but that main training space is where we do most of our training.
What's the total square footage less the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu section?
Well, the total space is about 10,000 square feet, but I'm trying to, it's kind of interesting because we have a pretty big like locker room shower area because of jiu-jitsu and the other group classes. I would say our actual training area total, without counting any of that, is probably about 4,000. I would say 4,000 square feet.
Great, nice size. Yeah. Very good. All right, and that was great. Thank you for that kind of high level. Just to elaborate slightly, can you just remind the listeners of the location? I can't remember if you said that or not. Yeah,
we're in Greenville, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how long has business been open for? How long have you been in business for now?
Well, total, it's now going on, I guess, to think about that for a second, because really, I started in college training people, and then I worked for another person for a while, and then opened up my own business. We've had several different name changes. That's one of the things you've helped me with a little bit as well, from a business standpoint. But we've been in this facility we're in right now this will be going on our 7th year.
Mhm.
But I've been in business now for over, it's probably close to 30 years. Yeah.
So you've always been in either personal training or martial arts business,
Yes.
really,
Yeah.
your whole
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I started in college, like when I was still in college at Clemson, working at a gym there, Clemson Nautilus, which is where I really got reintroduced to high intensity training. Really, I did high intensity training in high school. Nautilus protocol is kind of, as I'm saying, kind of going back to the roots, but we didn't really have I didn't really have the knowledge then of understanding why we're doing things the way we did. Kind of went away from that into, Arnold's Encyclopedia of a Bodybuilder, for people that know that. Bodybuilding.
Sure, many do.
Yeah. And then came back to HIIT in college, learned a lot there. And then, from there, again, I was working for the person I worked for in Clemson opened up a place in Greenville. I worked for him for a while before I opened up my own studio, and was doing HIIT at that point. And then, so that's been, since I was in my 20s. So, and I'm 55.
This is well, you look great. And Billy's in immense shape as well, for those that can't see below the chest or below the neck. So now this is probably a good time to segue to your story a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So let's just go from there, where you left off there, and start talking about your story. I want to know the story of you getting into HIIT. Maybe you can rewind a tiny bit and just talk about some of those first inspirations. Then I want to know what happened. How did you get a bit derailed? Not to sound too dogmatic, and then how you got back on track again. So just walk us through that.
Yeah. So I think originally, if I kind of go back to like the mindset I guess I had at the time, as I kind of reflect back, it was like, even kind of in general, it's like, I think one thing I was thinking is I was looking for the best way. Like the best way to train, the best way, to get bigger, stronger, better athlete, that sort of thing. And in retrospect, I think, I can say that in a way was a mistake, because I feel like there's no one best way. So there's many ways that work. Okay. And I think that was my, when I look at like different ways I was trying to train, is like, I'm looking for like a better way. Right. So I think many ways work. But that was kind of what led, I went from, the HIIT stuff. I got results in high school doing that, really changed my life, kind of led me down this road. And then was looking for a better way through bodybuilding, looking at people like Arnold. So if I look at that training, it was a lot like, you go in the gym, you see the biggest guy, and you say, what are you doing? And we know, and that's not necessarily the best approach. Right. So genetics certainly play a role. And then a lot of times the people are getting, the bigger, strongest guys don't necessarily have the best training approach. They just are blessed with, really good genetics. So, and then when I got reintroduced to HIIT, and I really, this time, I didn't even know who Arthur Jones was until then. And I started reading, knowledge training principles and knowledge books by Ellen Darden, all this stuff. Like, man, this is a logical approach to training. They're explaining why. They're not just saying, do this because I use the Arnold thing, like do 50 pull-ups with a wide grip to make your lats wider, right? No reason why other than he did it. Versus with the approach from the high intensity side was like they were giving scientific, logical reasons behind why you're doing what you're doing. And so that's what kind of led me back to it. And then going away from it again was that same thing. It's like, I got results with that, but I was like, okay, what if there's a better way? And not just accepting what others say, but it's like, let's go and test it. Let's see if, I use the term a lot, like the N of one. There's, you got a big study, and maybe from a study and a scientific standpoint, you'd have poor results. So maybe out of 1,000 people, 10 people get great results, right? That's not going to be considered evidence-based approach. Like that's not, you're not going to choose that for the whole. But if you're one of the 10, so for me, I'm kind of like, I want to see what's out there, and then if there's a better way, and so that's what kind of led me off into some other training avenues.
So it sounds like you kind of oscillated a little bit. You kind of went towards HIIT, went away from it, because you're always searching for, which I think is a really typical path, actually. Yeah.
Yes. And then I think, and even looking like you mentioned CrossFit was really kind of what I moved into with that. Like some of the principles are the same, like high intensity. The workouts used to not be as long. There weren't necessarily huge volume of training. The biggest thing I would say is the frequency of training, and of course, obviously the velocity and speed you're moving at was very different, right? So, and then that I would say when I did that, we got results in terms of people getting stronger, more fit, that sort of thing. But what was happening, I started to see, was also accumulation of injuries. So that's what part of what kind of led me back towards the HIIT philosophy is like, and I realized I'm not getting much. I wouldn't say that my results were necessarily better. They're different, right? Because just like specificity of training, like you do a CrossFit workout and you've never done a CrossFit workout, it kills you, right? But I can take people who do CrossFit, I've done it, take them through a really hard HIIT training like we do it kills them, right? So it's just what you get used to a lot, So then it goes back to like when I look at training efficiency and then also safety. If I'm looking at from a longevity standpoint, that's kind of what led me back to the HIIT training. And so I just had a conversation with a gentleman this morning. Like I think my perspective is that now with the clients I work with is like if you're maybe a little bit older, if you had some joint issues and that sort of thing, you have a much better buy-in. When you're young and you're not getting
invincible.
Hurt, you think you're invincible. But that's one of the things for me is kind of part of my mission, even with some of our younger athletes. Like we have a good competition team for jiu-jitsu. We have younger athletes. Well, we have them doing HIIT. Like you're putting enough stress and strain on your body in jiu-jitsu. It's a sport. I don't need to add stress and strain beyond, joint trauma and that sort of thing in your strength conditioning workout on top of that, and so, and they're buying into that. So it's kind of cool. But I think in general, it's a little bit sometimes a harder sell to a younger population because it's, high intensity training is hard. We kind of joke about that at the gym when somebody says the workout's hard. And like kind of, that's why it's high intensity. It's supposed to be hard. But anyway, and so, and then also, I think a thing we talked about a little bit, which I realized, I don't think it's just me, but I realize it's a huge part of us too, is the mental side of training. I think I was also like, we also, I got into, for people it might be familiar with SealFit and I even did Kokora, which is a incredible program. Mark Devine, has a program, and to me, I look at that as a crucible event. It's not something, even now, if someone came to me and said, I want to do Kokora, it's a 50-hour training. It's kind of mimiking, Hell Week from Buds. So that's what he did originally to basically help guys prepare for going through Buds, which is, the basic training that SEALs go through. And, for me, it was a test. Like, can I do it? Am I mentally tough enough? So I realized that was always a piece of the training for me, and then, but I also, like I tell people now, you don't necessarily have to do that high volume, like 50-hour crucible. You can work on a lot of those same things if you have the interest in like the mental piece with a 20-minute HIIT workout. It just happens faster. So to me, I think that's also, personally, I didn't even always realize that was what was driving me, and also that mental challenge. And maybe honestly trying to prove to myself that I'm mentally tough and then doing things that challenge me. But in coming back, I realized a lot of that you can achieve, if that is a goal of yours, through HIIT training. You don't necessarily have to put all that, you don't have to put yourself at risk for injury just to challenge that piece also.
So just one question on what you were saying there. I have a lot of listeners who I know are, maybe they've got a physiotherapy business or some other type of fitness business, and they want to add HIIT or they want to transition to HIIT. And I suspect there's quite a lot of friction and stress related to that, because they may be thinking, will it work? Maybe I've got a good thing going now, even if they know in themselves that their clients might be better off with a HIIT approach. I'm just curious if you had that, right? So you had this CrossFit operation. CrossFit's very popular, obviously. A lot of people really like CrossFit,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of good things about it, right? In terms of the community, the competition side of it, it's very kind of motivational, and people, it's got. I suppose that probably leads to quite good adherence. So tell me, you started seeing injuries start to accumulate, and tell me a little bit about that kind of internal battle you were having in your mind. Was it difficult to sort of transition away, or was it quite easy for you? How did you manage that side of it?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that it was necessarily, I mean, from a business standpoint, yes. I mean, yeah, and really honestly, I remember having this conversation with my clients one day. I said, if I was doing this over again, I probably would make everybody start with one-on-one training, even if I was doing the group. And then I kind of had a question to myself, well, if I thought that was best, why am I not doing it? So, and the reason I wasn't doing it was fear. Would I have enough clients? Would I lose clients? And then will my business suffer? So, but in retrospect now, like we've made that really transition. We don't, even though we still have a small group, which we try to incorporate the principles of HIIT in that. It's just not, I mean, when I say small group, like it's not three, it's like up to 10 people or something. So it's not really as well supervised. It's not the ideal from my perspective now, but they enjoy that, right? So they're not hurting themselves. They're getting what they want from the program. But kind of going back to even the name of our gym now, the Optimization Training Lab, to me, I want to help people optimize. So if they're willing to listen and be coached, that's our goal. And I think sometimes that's hard. All of us have done HIIT. No, it's very difficult to really do what I would say an optimal HIIT workout just by yourself. Having a coach there to support you is huge, right? So to really apply that 100%, I think it's either like up to maybe 3 people might work, but I think a bigger group is hard to really optimize that training in my opinion. But yeah, so going back, I forgot your question now. So
no, it's okay. Yeah, I was just saying like how the original question was just transitioning from that CrossFit experience to HIIT and the challenges associated with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had a physical therapist who was working at our gym. We thought that would be good, and we're trying to make that work. And he would get a lot of clients from CrossFit gyms coming in, and I would see him, working with him on trying to get back doing a clean or a snatch or something like that. And that's where my frustration would come. It's like, in my mind would be like, why would you not just teach them that they don't have to do a clean or a snatch to be in shape and to be fit? Now, if that's their goal, they want to be a competitive athlete, that's one thing. But I think a lot of people, that's what I saw in our own gym, is like people were confusing why they were there. And I wasn't doing a good job of educating them. So they were thinking they told me their goal. They would say, I'm here to get fit. I'm here to get healthy. I'm here to be there for my grandkids, yada, yada, yada. Then, we don't necessarily have to do box jumps and snatches to do that, right? But then you're risking injury to do those things because you feel like that's the only way to do it. I'm like, no, there's other ways, much safer, much more efficient to do it. And but then I think part of that's the competition. It's good and bad because you see somebody else doing it, like, oh, I should be able to do that too, and you lose track of
sexy, right? Yeah,
what your real goal is, and if your goal, So to me, it's more about. So that's where kind of I would say the hard part is trying to communicate, like getting people to think really about why you're training to begin with, and that's what we always start with. And then you talk about the why, like what make connection to that first, like why are you really training, and then our goal as coaches is to help you find the plan. And then sometimes I think clients come in, they have the plan, they want to tell us the plan, but really if we're doing a good job coaching, then that's our goal, is to find the plan that works for them, not for them to give us the plan, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So and so yeah, that's kind of, so that was really helpful in the transition for us.
Yeah. A couple of things stood out there for me, and obviously I've seen some of this transition, especially with regard to group training. And I'm kind of proud of you, Billy, because you've really faced the fear, right? And you've kind of listened to that internal voice, and you've not just continue to go through life just listening to it and not taking action. You've actually continue to challenge yourself and see how you can move your services in a direction that was more congruent of what you really believe. And I've seen this obviously take place over a long period of time. And it can be daunting when you're looking at what you have now and where you wanted to end up. And I think the key is just to take the first step, right? And just break it down. And I've seen your group offerings really evolve to be in line with what you believe in. And it's taken time to do that because it can be very difficult to do. So kudos to you. And that's just a message to everyone else out there who, if they want to make a pivot in their business, and I'm working with someone currently now who is going through a major change in that sense. And it's really just about breaking it down into, kind of bite-sized chunks and just creating that plan and just working through it step by step, and you will get there. And the other thing you mentioned I want to highlight is education, which you and I speak about a lot, which is so critical. It's educating those new clients and existing clients you haven't already on the why behind the way you work out, right? And right. It's getting that in through, whether that's a teaching focus every session, which is a 20-second tidbit of information, which is carefully selected because it's like, you've decided on tidbits that are the most important, right? Maybe it's breathing, maybe it's why we move slowly, maybe it's about frequency, whatever. And then you're also doing things like emails, which I know you do, newsletters. You're really trying to utilize all the touch points with the customer to educate them on your particular approach and why it makes sense for them, right? And I think a lot of us neglect that. And that's really key for retention, which is super important, and ultimately referrals as well, right?
Yep.
So good stuff. So thank you for that. So you had the epiphany, you came back to HIT for the reasons you described. I know you have your own podcast, and you had a conversation with Steve Maxwell, and you both arrived at the same conclusion. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we go on to the next topic?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun for me. Talking to, because I think I was on his email list, and I saw something about Full Circle, and I remember going to my first Super Slow convention. Gosh, I don't know how many years ago, over 20 years ago. Met him there, just listening to him talk, and then I didn't even know I was doing another martial art at the time. Didn't even know he did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the time. So I've always kind of looked up to him and kind of followed him. And when I saw the Full Circle thing, because he, guys that don't know, or he got into kettlebells and some other things. And I joked with him on the podcast. I said, You're the reason I started doing kettlebells. And he's like, I apologize.
Oh, that's brilliant.
But I think, came to some of the same conclusions, and I look at using kettlebells as an example, like that can be a good tool, yep. But a lot of times how it's applied, with high volume and frequency and that sort of thing, that's where the issue comes, and so, I think, you can apply, high intensity, philosophy to a lot of different tools. Just got to do it the right way. And, but yeah, that was very, for me, it was also like, wow, I'm not the only one thinking this, cause Steve kind of went through that same transition. And then, I think that's kind of, just from my experience in HIT is like, sometimes, I think, I don't mean this in a bad way, but like, I know I was at one time is like, this is the only way. And like, I'm very closed-minded to other ways of training, at one point. And then when I started thinking, well, maybe there's a better way, the good thing I can say is like, I went and tried it. I'm not just doing it on hearsay. I can try it. So if anybody wants to know what that high volume training can do to you, I have two, not replaced, but two resurfaced hips, which I don't think that came from HIT training. so a couple of elbow surgeries, and I've done jiu-jitsu too. So obviously that that's something I'm willing to understand. There's a cost benefit ratio there, but it's, there's a trade-off to that. So I would say, any of your listeners that want to know like what that other path is like, I'll be glad to talk to them and give my perspective on that, which is part of what we're doing in this podcast. But I feel like for me, like going back again, I heard actually Bryce Lee say this, I think, on one of your podcasts, kind of the same thing. It's like, if you look at it from a safety and efficiency standpoint, I don't know of a better way, and so as far as HIT. So even if, you may get results with other training, if you look at it from that side of it, that's where really I feel like, more than like, oh, this is better than that. Like it's definitely safer, definitely more efficient. And that's our, to me, our biggest selling points.
This episode is brought to you by Strength Portal. You need a software platform that enables you to track workouts, deliver consistent high-quality client experiences, and scale your business. The problem is you're still using pen and paper or basic spreadsheets to run your business, which leads to inconsistent workout experiences and stifles your business growth, making you feel frustrated. Strength Portal have worked closely with the HIIT industry to create a software platform to manage and scale your niche business. Strength Portal is used by multiple businesses in the high-intensity strength training community, namely Discover Strength, Smart Strength Austin, MedX Precision Fitness, and more. To help support the podcast, go to strengthportal.com/high-intensity business and sign up for your ideal package now. That's strengthportal.com/high-intensity business. And now back to the episode. Yeah, and that's why it's the obvious choice for a lot of people who are walking around on this planet. Thank you, Billy. That was really interesting. So let's talk about, I guess, the results you've seen, which we started off talking about at the start of this podcast over the last couple of years. So if we go way back, maybe to before we were starting working together, what were the problems you saw? I mean, you've obviously touched on one of those currently, which was that some of the business model or the services weren't necessarily congruent with what you wanted, right? Maybe I think at the time I'm putting words in your mouth now, but I know you were more stressed out, working more hours. So Can you just tell us a little about what things were like at the beginning? Because before we got started working together, what sort of problems you faced at that time, if you can cast yourself back to then, if you remember that far back.
Okay. Yeah. I think, what led me kind of back to doing, high intensity one-on-ones, like the stuff we talked about, seeing the injury, seeing a better way, maybe for most of my clients to train. And then when I started that process, going back to education, and really, I would say, even like from a standpoint of like having a target market, is that when we were doing group training, it was very hard to educate people to differentiate between what we're doing versus what everybody else is doing. So you got CrossFit, you got all these other, group classes, functional training. Really, what does that mean, right? So everything gets lumped under one kind of thing. And so it was very difficult to differentiate what we were trying to do, even though we felt like what we were doing, even before, once we got out of CrossFit, we're still doing group classes. It was different than CrossFit, but people couldn't differentiate. And so part of that process, I think, was really, deciding, okay, I feel like going again, congruently, what do I feel like is best? And then focusing on that and then finding a way to really communicate that and educate people about what we're doing. And my thing is, like, if I go back again to like the whole idea of optimization, and you helped me a lot on this, even though we still work on these other areas, it's not to focus on everything at once, really focus on what we focus on is like, getting people in the door and getting them started with a plan is basically the quantified strength training. Yeah. And then from there, we try to provide support on the other areas, nutrition, stress management, some of the mental aspects, is a support mechanism, but that's not necessarily how we're introducing them. And then if they may not want that other stuff, but we that's just a support for the quantified strength. So I think focusing on that one thing has been really helpful in helping us grow that part of our business. And it's easy to see. People can differentiate what we do now.
Yeah, that's a fantastic place to start, isn't it? Because I think that's one of the first things we were working on is strategy, right? And we were looking at systems like EOS to help to really focus you in the business. And listeners will have heard you say it several times now. Quantify strength training is because you're very clear on that is your strategic niche. That is your core focus. So when you're looking to improve the business or add something to the business, or an idea pops into your head, if it doesn't relate to improving that, quantified strength training, it's not getting a look in, because that is the core. Or if it's not supporting that, it's not going to be something you take action on, because you're going to stay completely focused. And I think that's a key lesson right there. It's something we talk about a lot on this show is I think a lot of our colleagues are distracted by shiny things, different revenue streams, different businesses even. And that could really be the death of your business if you don't stay focused. And frankly, staying focused, as we will explore, is probably the way to maximizing profitability whilst minimizing stress. Because I don't know about you, but I hate the overwhelm of thinking about thousands of different options and things you could do as a fitness business. That's tyrannizing for me. So I think that's what we all want, right? More profit and less stress. I think that's If you click your fingers and have that, those would be the things for most of us. So we did that. So we worked through that process, and we defined the strategic niche, quantified strength training. We defined your three uniques, right? So off the top of my head, efficiency, safety, and you can remind me of the other one. We worked through that so that we had those filters on, so that you knew what you were focused on, and you knew the kind of like things you were going to focus on when talking to customers. So that's great. So you think that was the starting point for, I guess, really starting to grow the business?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then looking at it, with our, and then of course I'm very fortunate too, is, having good coaches to support too, because at the beginning I thought I'm just going to be the one doing this. And then really now we've been able to bring in other coaches that support that. That's helped the growth as well. So I'm not, in my previous experience with HIT, that's kind of, I don't necessarily want to use the word burnout, but I think that happens with a lot of, because it's, I'm the one training everybody and then trying to run the business on top of that. And that kind of, to me, where I kind of describe that is like you're in survival mode all the time, and then, it's hard to, thrive when you're in survival all the time. So that's been a big help too. And, of course, you helped me through that process as well, with our coaches. And, that's been a huge part of our growth as well, especially this past year.
Yeah. And that's actually you're reminding me of stuff now, which is really cool. So no, I remember you were doing a lot of sessions and I was always challenging you, saying, take time off or carve out time, delegate the sessions. And I think at one point you had to go away and you were kind of forced to delegate a lot of sessions, and you kind of came back and said, nothing, the business is still running.
Right.
It wasn't a disaster. And then I think that then gave you more permission to delegate more. So looking at the situation now, how is things structured for you now? Do you have certain blocks of time where you're not training clients, where you can work on the business rather than in the business all the time?
Yeah, I've created more time for that. And then, we talked about in our coaching sessions just a couple of weeks ago, like one of my focuses this year is really trying to spend more of that time too with our coaches. Yeah. Just helping them, any way I can to support them to be the best coach possible. So because even one of my, and I've, kind of have an interesting, it's not, some people would argue it's not the best business setup in terms of like how our coach, but I think it's fortunate, all the coaches we have are also my friends, and most of them, started out training with me first. They were clients and then became coaches, so, I think one of our, kind of components is like belief in the system, right? So it's not like I have someone who maybe has like an exercise physiology degree that really has come from a different kind of philosophy of training. And now, they've got to understand HIT. Sometimes that can be a challenge. I've had that in the past. Well, I know all my coaches believe in what we're doing because they did it, and they got results.
Yeah, interesting.
But now it's like, so that's a big focus for us this year is really, and trying to really make it where, so one of my point is one of my coaches, well, people come here to train with you. You're like, well, that's great, but I don't want to be like that. I want everybody to be able to deliver the same, everybody's going to be unique in their personality and how they do things. But in general, our system should be the same for everyone. We're using Strength Portal now, and that's been a great asset as well because, like today I'm on this podcast and one of my coaches is training one of the clients that I normally train. He's got it in the portal. We looked at the workout, he knows exactly what we did last time. He's just got to follow that plan. And it makes it really simple. If you have that system in place, where you, like you said, you go away and you have clients that you normally train, they're being taken care of. And, again, it removes a lot of stress knowing that.
And that's one of the things we worked on, wasn't it? Is getting a cohesive system that you could use to train up the coaches to deliver workouts at a set standard. And that was important to get that out, roll that out so that you could delegate more training and feel good about it and, keep customers happy and remove this dependency on you, which is, I think, important if one wants to go beyond just, themselves running the business. They want to grow a business. You have to make time to obviously work on the business. You have to carve out that time. You should have it in the schedule on what Cal Newport calls autopilot scheduling, which is You pick the 2-hour block in the week or whatever it is, couple 2-hour blocks in the week, and you have them on recurring, and it's the same time every week, and you have a ritual around getting into the zone when you do that. And you use that time to focus on your main objectives, right? Your rocks. That could be a new system, which is what, I had you doing a lot of the time, whether that was, a new onboarding system or a new workout system or marketing system or fill in the blank. And that's really how you obviously build grow a business over the long term and bring more people in the fold as well. So, and you also touched on, we touched on systems. Obviously, I elaborate on that there. And you touched on how that's become important, because that wouldn't be something that you would think much about before we started working together, was it? In terms of trying to implement a system for all of the repetitive tasks in the business.
Well, I would say that I wouldn't say that I was unaware of it. What I would say, this kind of goes back to, coaching, right? To me, like it's, I've been coaching, like we said, for a long, long time. So, and I've been coaching in jiu-jitsu as an example, but from a business standpoint, I haven't been coached. So it's like, it gave me a perspective as a client being coached also, right? You've had to remind me over and over about a few things. Hold me accountable. So that's been helpful. So I think what I would say is like what working with you did with the systems is it like, that's not something I enjoy. Like, I think I would think like a lot of HIIT studio owners that I've met, we love the training. We love doing that. We don't necessarily love the business part. So I think for me, what it was is that weekly call of like, okay, Billy, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And, did I do it every single week? Stay on track? No, but enough to make the business grow. And so that I would say is a different, like help you kind of holding my feet to the fire of getting the systems done is had us make progress. Versus if it's not that I didn't know before that I need to have systems. I just never did it. And so I think that's to be totally honest. So I think we talked about that. Like, that's one of my big things with our clients this year and with our coaches and myself as well, is like, sometimes it's not learning something new, it's doing what you know. And then maybe having somebody hold you accountable to doing what you already know you should be doing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's, just on this, one of a good principle to follow is who, not how, right? Which I think is, I'm not sure if that's a Dan Sullivan or a Dean Jackson, whoever come up with that first, but one of those guys. And it's such a powerful idea because, all the time as entrepreneurs, we're a lot of time in HIIT, we're trying to do everything ourselves and we're trying to figure out how to do it. But, a lot of the times it's about finding the person already knows how to do it and then delegating it to them, which is kind of where we've ended up with systems, isn't it? Because you kind of, in a moment of vulnerability, honestly said, Lawrence, I hate doing systems. And, we were talking about the book Systemology, and that book describes how to systematize your business, and it describes how to appoint a systems champion in your business who can actually work with all of the team to create those systems for you, which is a wonderful solution. So if you're listening to this, in fact, Tasso, if you listen to this, I remember speaking to you, and I know you don't like systems very much, although you may be fantastic at it now because that was years ago. I think you would really benefit from Systemology and appointing a systems champion in your business. So hopefully he listens to this. I mean, he might be a master now, but if he listens to this, I think he might find that very useful. And I know there's a lot of our colleagues that will as well. And obviously Strength Portal's been a great success for you as well, which is great to hear. That certainly sounds like it makes things a lot easier for you. So let's just touch on some of the hard numbers, shall we? So we were talking before this, and I was quite blown away by the progress. I didn't even realize, how well you've done over the last couple of years. But let me see if I've got my figures right. So around about the time we started working together, you were at about 41 clients. That grew to 62. Now, bear in mind, these are mostly one-on-ones for the most part, aren't they, for high-intensity training?
Yeah,
I know there's some mix, but
that's purely for the the one-on-one or training.
Yeah. And then you got to 62 at the end of 2021, and then by the end of 2022 you're on 92. So that's where the doubling comes from. Slightly more than that actually, which is fantastic. And obviously you've been able to retain fairly well as well. So that's awesome. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I feel like that's certainly in order. I hope you. I know you're not the one to party and celebrate too much, Billy, which I respect. But I hope you certainly took some time to clink a a glass of champagne with the wife at some point over Christmas, maybe, or the family. So let's just, obviously we've talked about a bunch of stuff today that all kind of works together to help grow the business, right? If you've got systems, if you've got you're training the coaches on systems, you're taking more time to work on the business, all of this is going to kind of coalesce to help grow the business, right? We know that. We know if you've got systems for training, for example, we know there's going to be greater consistency. We know that's going to improve client experience, and that's going to ultimately lead to probably more referrals, for example. But if we had to kind of point at some of the key things we did, and maybe you can help remind me, or you did, I should say, what were those things that you think really contributed to growth? Maybe we could just talk about those for a bit.
I think some of it, from the very get-go, you mentioned EOS, and a lot of the EOS stuff resonated with me from other things I've done. Like I mentioned, from a mental standpoint, like we're doing a little thing at the beginning of the year with clients that are interested in kind of going to like the mental performance stuff. The MVP process is that, right? It's mission, vision, and principles. Well, that's really sounds very similar to EOS too. So it can be, so it's just applying those principles to business. So that really resonated with me from the get-go, and like going back to like really getting congruent with what my belief systems are and the vision and mission for the gym. I think that was first part that really kind of got me, and it's really why we rebranded the name of the gym Optimization Lab, because even though we have different paths, to me, it's really about, for me, ultimately helping people optimize their lives. And, we call it closing the gap between where they are and where they can be. And so for the fitness part, the Fletcher Fitness, which is the high intensity training part, the quantified strength training, that's to me is a path, right? So that was really kind of the first kind of big piece. And then just creating systems. I would say the next piece of that is just trying to really create systems within each of those programs as best as possible to help them, run as efficiently as possible. Like in our jiu-jitsu program, they started kind of doing that through our, association there. Whereas used to be, I think we talked about it with your interest in jiu-jitsu, is like, I said, try to find a place that has a beginner curriculum. It used to be everybody would just go in and beat the crap out of each other and see who survived, right? So that was fun.
I'm really glad I spoke to you first about that.
But now we have a much better system for our jiu-jitsu as well. So I see it in that business also. And I would say those, the two main things, and then delegating. I think that would be the other. Like, like I said, I've got great people and trusting them, to do the job, and then just trying to, be able to support them as much as I can. Because that's for me, it's another level of coaching. It's like, rather than coaching the client, if I can coach the coach, then I still get to fulfill that part of me that I love doing, but it's just from a different, different perspective.
Yeah, well said. So I know people are probably listening to this thinking, okay, great. Yeah. So you did some delegation. Okay. You got some focus in the business. They might still feel that sounds a little bit abstract and disconnected from the growth, from the new client coming in the door. If I'm correct in saying most of it's referral, right? Pretty much Absolutely. All of those customers. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, on how those were generated, you feel?
Yeah, I think, it's what we kind of try to, with the coaches, like just basically say, one is, the main goal is to deliver the best workout, a world-class workout. So how can we do that? Right. So we do that and also we've talked about this as well, is like what I've become aware of, even, it's also the experience of the workout. Right. So, we're kind of trying to dial that in even better with communication with the client, creating rapport, like going back to their why. What do you really want to get from this? Right. And so connecting with that, and then that leads to people being excited about their training. And then, and then just asking, just simply really not being aggressive with it, but listening, when someone says, hey, maybe this would be good for my wife or my friend or whatever, and say, hey, let's get them in for a demo and have them come and experience it as well. And then that's really, I would say, that's really from just, if you want to call it marketing or whatever, that's really what we've done. We really haven't done much otherwise in terms of marketing, but it's really the referral process that's helped us grow.
Yeah, you've done like basically no paid marketing, right? For the most part, is that fair to say?
I
the
would
last
say, yeah,
couple of years?
we did some with the more with our jiu-jitsu program, but with our one-on-one training, not really.
Yeah, which is very interesting, obviously. Yeah, so the key there really is working on that system for how you do the workout, right, end to end, in terms of the customer service experience. You know, even as simple as like how you welcome the client and shake their hand or whatever, through to how you carry out the workout. So you feel like standardizing that and really focusing on that, and again, the focus with quantified strength training has led to better experiences, which has led to more referrals.
Yes, absolutely.
And if I remember, in your team is quite skewed into. I know you got one team member in particular who's very good at generating those referrals. Is that the case that you've?
Yeah, I mean, give Lara a little shout out. She's probably got the most referrals.
Yeah.
So, and some of her clients, so it's everybody's got different, and with my coaches, they also have different goals as far as, from a professional standpoint. So how many, we really only have, one other coach that's really interested in being full time right now. So, it's also kind of finding, like, for them, I still look at them, even though they're coaches, I'll still look at them as clients as well. So I always kind of go back to, like, what do you want from this as well? That's kind of how we started the whole process. Versus, again, it's a little bit different, I think, than most people. But like, I didn't go out and, hire someone that I never met before and go through like a typical process. Like, I know you're going through like the hiring process, like with Luke. It's very different with how at this point, how we've done it. If we continue to grow, we may take that approach, So, but yeah, Larry does a great job with referrals, and we have other coaches that have gotten referrals too, and starting to see that more and more. But she's probably the number one as far as that. And she also does very good with the demo. She enjoys doing that, so she does a good job with that as well.
Got it. Okay. And it's also important to mention that all your clients are on Autopay, monthly recurring revenues.
We have a couple that aren't, but yeah, almost, I would say 95% at least are on Autopay.
Which is an important distinction to make, because if they're on packages, that's not as, it's not say it's not a good achievement. It's just it's much better if they're on, obviously, Autopay from a cash flow perspective, and for lots of other reasons as well, asset value.
We look at it as like, too, is we want them to train. So, if they're on Autopay, like, you're paying for those sessions, well, look, let's get in, and then, because it's not helping you if you're not here to train. It's different if you're out of town, that sort of thing. But then we try to do makeup sessions if we can. But really, like, you're committing, and that's a part of it. That's kind of our little tagline, commit, show up, don't quit, be uncommon, be your best self. Commit, but you still got to show up. So that's the Autopay. I think I try to explain from a psychological standpoint too. Is they're committing to getting in that so many sessions per month.
Yeah, I mean, just not to tangent too much, but it's the same, if not easier, to sell than a package. And it means that, if someone does a package, they might only train so many times in the year, right? They're not going to, if they buy 10 sessions, you think they're going to take 10, if they're once a week, they're going to take 10 weeks? Probably not. Probably more like 15 weeks or 20 weeks. Right. So you're looking at much less revenue over time and less consistency with the customer, and having to also always resell that customer. So if it's just as easy, if not easier, to sell a monthly contract, then that's what we should all be doing.
And like I said, I look at it like you're saying, like a win-win. Like, it's good for the business, cash flow wise, but also for the client. I think mindset, like, it goes back to that commitment. Like, you're committing to doing this. That's the plan.
Yeah.
It's not the workout you plan on doing once a week and you work out every other week, or you plan on doing 2 days a week and you only do once a week. So it kind of keeps them, I think, more on track with that, having the, set up that way as well.
Got it. Okay, cool. Awesome. So what else? I mean, I was just looking back again at the things we worked on together, and I know one of the big things you did was a challenge, right?
Yes.
So challenge being, what was it, a 30-day challenge where you offered higher frequency of training, some dietary advice, some Carol HIIT workout stuff. Do you want to just elaborate on that and maybe give a cursory view on what you did there and how that worked out?
Yeah, that worked well. I mean, we got really, I don't have the results in front of me, but it's we got really good results with that, in terms of, the people that stuck to the plan, in terms of changing body composition and that. And also, it just, it made me realize, we're doing a new challenge this year, a little bit different, but it's we all need that, right? We like if we set goals, but also if we can have, blocks of time. I think you did, we just practiced this with our coaches the last month. We call it the Blitz. But training more frequently and seeing what kind of changes we can make in a short time frame, like 3 to 4 weeks. That will be something we do in the new year. But just putting a new goal in front of someone, like I think that's key. It's like, and they get excited about it, and so a little higher motivation, a little, and then better results. And so sometimes, people have those goals for themselves. And then I think sometimes it's from a, as the business owner, creating those things can help give a little more spark to the clients as well. And then also, if you're adding more frequency or you're adding some other service in there, can also increase revenue as well.
Yeah.
Almost like, I think for me, I didn't really look at it as much about the even though we did get revenue from it, it was more about generating like that excitement and, and the training experience and the motivation to get people results. So that was for us.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, I don't think you necessarily acquired a lot of new customers from it, but you increased the revenue from existing, which is, again, another hugely untapped resource in a lot of our businesses, is actually looking at your existing clients and look at those who are only training once a week and see if you can increase those guys to twice a week. And a lot of them would be happy to, if they know that it's going to produce better results for them. Because we all know, Billy, you and I, we're outliers. We push it really hard, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week for some people who push at the level we do and some of our colleagues. Maybe they will overtrain, right? But the reality is our clients don't push as hard, and quite often, higher frequency is going to get them better results and obviously generate more revenue for the business. Probably a controversial statement for myself, but so that would be my own opinion. I certainly know there's people in the industry who might disagree with me, but that's what I think on that. So
I think like the challenge, what it allows people to do is experiment. That's kind of, how we approach it is like, I'm not a hard sell guy. Like, we tell people when they come in, we've seen results. We've been doing this, back to like the one-on-one and the high intensity for like about 3 years. And we've got some people that train only once a week. We've seen still steady gains. So it's really about but if maybe you want gains faster, and you may try it if you're doing 1 day, go to 2 days, and maybe you get quicker gains. Right. So it's really, like I said, I don't really try to push it from a standpoint like you got to do this, but those challenges give people a chance to experiment, and then make a decision after that. Okay, this was working better for me. I go to that, or I go back to my 1 day a week or whatever after that. So
yeah. And I think obviously a wider discussion, this one, but I do think there's probably greater fat loss and cardiorespiratory benefits as well with slightly greater frequency of training. So depending on the client's goals, you can obviously tailor what's most meaningful to them when you're upserving them with these other options, right? So challenges can work really well for just generating more frequency and upselling cross-selling other services as well. In fact, you just give me a great idea that I need to tell someone about it, is to actually perhaps think about a challenge. So I had a couple other notes here, Billy, just on things that I guess came to mind for me that I thought really made a difference and have ultimately led to you generating more referrals. This thing we keep coming back to is focus. And I remember when we first started working together, you had so many irons in the fire, lots of things you were doing, and I kind of made you go away and do the math to look at what was the profitability of one-on-one versus all of your services. Look at what was the profit per hour or effective hourly rate for those services, and like one-on-one just came out so far on top, it was ridiculous, right? And it was that obviously you knew ahead of time that was probably where the future of the business was, but to actually do that and see it on paper and see the difference in what was earned through that service, it just made it obvious that was the thing to focus on. So I'm wondering if just having that focus again on the highest profit activity has really helped focus your sales efforts, so that when you're doing demos, you're always kind of moving pointing people towards the one-on-one offer for the most part. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I think, again, kind of to me, I look at it as a win-win too, because I feel like that's where we get our best results, so it's easy to push people that way. Right. But then, you look at it from the business side of it too, because we have to, can't keep the lights on. We can't have nice equipment if we don't have a successful business as well. Right. So it's kind of like, to me, that's what makes that easy, is like, it's a win-win on both sides of it. And I think some of those, I was kind of reflecting on this even, yesterday, is that I think sometimes what's hard for us is coaches, because we have connection to our clients too. Is sometimes we're not, if someone's outside looking at the business, it's much easier for them to look at it from without the emotional attachment to who you're affecting. You know what I'm saying? So like with our group classes, for instance, like, those people are my friends. They've trained with me for a long time. The bigger group classes, like, I don't want to, not make sure they're getting taken care of. But that's why, like, now in our new website, like, there's no mention of the bigger group class. There's only the other stuff, right? So we're not getting rid of those classes. We're not trying to bring people to those classes anymore. We just want to make sure we're still taking care of our people we have now, but really our focus will be on the one-on-one and like in the very small, up to maybe 3 people in a semi-private. But yeah, so that's definitely helped.
I love that.
us.
This is a really good point, and I think what I want to leave the listeners with on this particular point is, what can you delete from your business, right? What can you actively delete from your business to make it more profitable, to make it simpler, to make everyone's lives a little easier? I think that's a really good question for everyone to ponder, because there's probably a lot of things in your portfolio that are just, they have some kind of overhead, some kind of cost, even if that is simply the fact that they're on their website and no one's clicking them. It's a distraction, right? It's another thing they have to think about when they're looking at all the different options on your site, for example. And you'd probably be better off just deleting those things. Another way of looking at it is an 80-20 analysis. Look at typically what we see, well, what we always see, in fact, because it's just a law, Pareto law, is that 20% of our outputs, 80% of the output is linked to 20% of the inputs. And that's across everything: products, customers, advertising, ROI or advertising sources, all of that stuff. And if you have a note here, I think focus is one of the big takeaways from this podcast, Billy, that I want the listeners to really think about. And in line with focus as well is scorecard, right? So again, this is a really simple practice that very few people do, that's just so powerful. And that's having this simple scorecard template, which is inspired by EOS, obviously, and just tracking some key metrics, like how many free workouts you did this week, how many new clients, what your retention's looking like, how many churned clients, how much revenue, these kinds of things. So you can really track, business performance and get a pulse on the business every week, and also see how what you're doing is impacting the metrics that are important, right? And that's something that you certainly weren't great at doing in the start, Billy, but you've got better, and there's obviously still work to be done there, but you've made massive strides in terms of doing that. And actually it's quite exciting to see that scorecard grow.
Yeah. And I had that meeting with some of our coaches yesterday, kind of going over for last year, our goals and all that. And, we're very, very, right there at where we set for our goals at the beginning of the year. And I'm like, and it's the same process that we apply with our clients for strength training, right? It's like, having a goal, sticking to it, but measuring it, because otherwise I don't know where I'm at. And so it's like, so we just don't, sometimes I think as us studio owners, we don't necessarily, again, apply it to our business. It's like, it's not that we don't know that it works, we just don't apply it in other areas. So it was nice for me to see that and be able to share that with the coaches as well.
I love that. So I don't want to overstay my welcome. I'm very aware of time, but I just wanted to very briefly touch on it, because there's obviously there's some of these big things we focused on, like focus, strategy, strategic niche, workout systems, listen and ask method, right? Which is what you've kind of implemented in terms of getting the team to look out for those opportunities to generate referrals when someone mentions a friend or a partner or someone who could benefit. But there are other things. Obviously, there was, you've done so much. You've really implemented proper team meetings, right? Where you've got agendas and they're at a scheduled time and you're doing role play. So that's a key thing, right? Is you're actually practicing the new processes with the coaches. How do you put a client through a workout? How do you discuss a referral opportunity when it comes up? These kinds of things. And then there's been the build out, right? So you bought all the new equipment, the pendulum and Nautilus stuff that you meant, the Medex, sorry. And there was building that out and incorporating that into the small group offering, which it's worked quite well. So that was a big move. And then I know obviously now the real focus is on the leverage you get from coaching coaches, which is going to be a big focus for you this year, which I'm excited for. So that's all I had, in terms of things I noticed that you did, which I think really made the difference. Is there anything else you want to mention for the listeners in terms of what you think's really helped you grow to where you've got to in the last couple of years? Like the main takeaways for you, the things that really made the difference.
I think we talked about most of them. I think, again, you've been a huge help with that. Like, again, it's like, I think I read this from another person recently. Like, it's like if you, as coaches, if you don't believe you need a coach, then maybe you don't value how much have, really show your value as a coach. So that's kind of one of the things I've tried to do in different areas. And then, as a business coach, I mean, you've been very helpful to me, especially in this, like, maybe I'm more receptive to it now, but if I'd had this process years ago, I think it would have made a huge difference for me in my business. So I think that's, I think we all need coaches, like, in just finding the areas that were the most important to us and areas we want to grow in. So I think that would be, not just in a business standpoint, but, in other areas as well. So I've always tried to kind of continue to have a coach, even though I'm coaching people. So I think that would be we kind of talked about that, but I think that's been huge for me. And that, and again, that accountability stuff. Sometimes it's not that you're telling me anything I don't already know, but like, okay, and also having a sounding board, hear somebody else in that perspective. But for me, the idea of like, I've worked with some other people, like some business stuff before, but for me, is your understanding of the HIT community, I think, has been a huge difference, because if you're coming from a different perspective, it's sometimes they really don't understand the what we're trying to do. And so I think that's been very helpful. Like you have your own studio, you talk to other studio owners. So that to me is, I think, part of why it's been successful. It's not we have EOS, but you've taken some of those concepts from EOS and applied it to the HIT approach. And that's made a big difference for me.
Thank you, Billy. Yeah. Live and breathe this stuff and love it. It's great. I love being able to share all the insights that I gather from, because I'm talking to our colleagues all the time and just learning so much, and love being able to obviously share that. And you're right, I don't have all the answers. So, I'm working with someone at the moment who's incredibly bright and high level, successful. And frankly, she knows probably a lot more than I do about the business. But where I guess I provide a little bit more value there is some of my industry specific knowledge from conversation with people like you and others. Certainly the work I do with people like Luke Carlson, for example, which has been a game changer, is also just that soundboard, that getting people to ask important questions of themselves and their business, and then keeping people accountable and being very measured and objective. Billy, I'm very aware of time, and I'm very grateful that you're taking more than what we agreed. So I appreciate that. So thanks so much. And I guess I'm not going to summarize everything we said because we said a lot, but I think just the key things I really want listeners to take away. And I think that seeing Billy's journey and seeing his success and growing the business, I really think one of the key aspects of it is just systematization and being focused. So once Billy had kind of set his strategy, and you can read the book Traction to learn all about how to implement EOS and really decide on where you're going to put your focus. Once you have that, then it's really about just focusing everything in the business on that focus. And then obviously systematizing as well, ensuring that, if that is some kind of quantified strength training or personalized strength training or whatever you want to call it, it's just making sure that you've got that you've taken the best person in your business at training, maybe that's yourself, and you've actually wrote down that workflow, and then you're training your team to deliver workouts in the same way. I think that's one of the key things that's really helped you to grow the company. So with that said, if people are interested, obviously learning more about you, they can go to optimization with a Z traininglab.com. And see the website. And if they've got, if you've got clients moving or traveling to South Carolina, send them to Optimization Training Lab, because I get a fantastic workout from the nicest guy in town. And and again, for the listeners, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, because we're everywhere these days, I think, hopefully. And also on YouTube as well, youtube.com/high intensity business. And obviously, if you're listening to this podcast saying you'd also like coaching and accountability and all that good stuff, and you want someone to help you grow your business, then please check out the coaching services over at highintensitybusiness.com. Billy, I'm very grateful for you taking the time. And obviously, I really appreciate your kind words about, our workings together. So thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And, I love the work we've done together. And your podcast in general has been super educational. It's nice to hear from other business owners and in the business as well.
Great. Thank you. And for everyone listening, to find the blog post for this episode, please go to highintensitybusiness.com, search for episode 397. And until next time, thank you very much for listening. This episode is brought to you by Strength Portal. You need a single software platform that enables your trainers to deliver consistent, high-quality workouts, track client progress, and scale your business. The problem is you're still using pen and paper or basic spreadsheets to run your business, which leads to poor client experiences, inaccurate tracking, and prevents you from growing your business, making you feel frustrated. Strength Portal understand your challenge and have worked closely with the HIIT industry to create a software platform to manage and scale your niche business. You can integrate with MindBody, manage a standardized exercise and workout library for your team, track workouts effectively, and produce client reports at the click of a button. Strength Portal is used by multiple businesses in the high-intensity strength training community, namely Discover Strength, Smart Strength Austin, MedX Precision Fitness, and more. Starting with Strength Portal is super simple. Number 1, sign up for the best package for your business. Number 2, let Strength Portal take the load off and help onboard your business onto the platform. And number 3, start delivering consistent workout experiences and scale your business to the next level. To help support the podcast, please go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business and sign up now, so you can stop feeling frustrated about your business and start to scale your business to its true potential. Go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business.